Good morning, everybody.
Hey.
So this week we wanted to talk to you a little bit about a couple of things. Obviously, we continue to share a lot of our story, and if you've watched any of our videos, you know early on it was really difficult, and there was a time where we were truly focused on what was best for us as individuals. Like, I was focused on what was best for me, Jackie was focused on what was best for her, and really believed that our marriage should be about what was best for each of us. And we received some challenge in the midst of that, and Jackie's got a specific story that she is going to share with you here, and we'll talk a little bit more about the choice to stay and what that looks like in the midst of a marriage.
So during the really hard time in our marriage early on, Alethea was about 1. She's our oldest child, and we were living with our friends in the basement. Didn't know we were going to go through marriage boot camp, but we kind of were going through a marriage boot camp. And we were in the process of trying to heal and learn how to trust and do this marriage together. And so through just discussion with some other people who were helping us along, we decided that Mike was going to take on the finances. And that was kind of a scary thing, because history said he wasn't very good at the finances, and organization and scheduling payments and things wasn't super his thing, but it was something that he could tangibly do for our marriage to help rebuild trust. And so we went with that. And along the way, there were struggles that he had with it, and in particular, there was a car insurance payment that was late. And of course, we got a notice, we're going to cut off your car insurance. And for me, that was a super big trigger. My mom was financially responsible to the most, and what brought us up similar in that, and would have never let anything happen. And so that was scary to me, to think no car insurance, can't afford car insurance. We had very little money, and that really triggered. And the fact that he was the one that brought that about for us, I mean, had all of our marriage crap wrapped up in it. And I was so angry at him. I was so angry. How could you do this? How could you jeopardize car insurance and us being able to use our car? And our friend said, hey, you don't have to have a car to have transportation. If your husband led you down the street to the bus stop and that's all that you had, would you follow him? And that was a super challenging question to me. I was really so angry that that question had even been posed, because I was still really struggling with who Mike was in the first place, and struggling with the dynamics in our marriage and how broken it was. I certainly didn't want to think about, just even in concept, following him down the street to the bus stop because he had failed to pay our car insurance. Now, that was a hypothetical question, but the question was valid and real nonetheless. It was an important question, and it is one that has stuck with me to this day, and one that I've talked about with different people at different times, to use as an example, because the question really wasn't about money, or it wasn't about car insurance. It was really about, am I going to stick with this marriage? Because what I would have naturally done would have been like, hey buddy, you do you. If you can't take care of us, I'm taking our daughter, and we're going to go figure it out. And I didn't really mean divorce, but I can go stay with my parents, I can go stay with some friends. I don't know. I'm not letting you take us down this road. That's not going to happen. And the challenge really was, am I going to stay? Am I going to surrender to this marriage? And are we going to work on this being about us, instead of about this being about me and my expectations of what life is supposed to look like, of what marriage is supposed to be, what you're supposed to be like? Or am I going to allow this to be about us? And in order for that to happen, there had to be patience and grace and a surrender, a selflessness in the midst of that, to be like, this is going to be what we look like. This isn't going to look like what I want it to look like. And that was a really hard thing to hand over. But it was a really important thing to grapple with. And it remained true throughout some other hard times in our marriage, to be reminded of letting go and staying in our marriage, and for this not to be about me or about Mike, but for it to be about God.
I would love to tell you that was the last time that I ever missed a bill, but it wasn't. It was something that I struggled with. I was organizationally challenged in that arena, and it was something that took me a long time to try and figure out. And to have Jackie hit a point where she was like, I'm going to stand with you in this, really changed a lot of the dynamics that we had. Even to the point where I was able to say, there's some of this stuff that I'm just not good at and I need help with. That's not something that's easy for me to say, but her taking a place that says we're in this together allowed me to do some of that, and we were able to kind of divide some stuff up and go, okay, here's some things that I can do, here's some things that you can do, and really tap into one another's strengths well. But that didn't come easy, and it wasn't obvious in the moment. I'm sure to those around us, they were looking at it going, guys, this is not that tough to figure out. But for us in the middle of it, it really seemed insurmountable. It really felt like there was no way we were going to be able to do this. And so we both came to a place where we had to make the choice that said, we're in this, we're committed to it, and we're going to make it what we need it to be. And when I say we, I mean Jackie, myself, and God in the midst of that. Jackie mentioned a God-centered marriage versus a self-centered marriage, and the idea that our marriages are here to help us grow into who God wants us to be is huge, which means there are going to be challenges because God wants a lot for us. And so there's a lot of places where we're going to be pushed to grow and become better. Not so that God will love us more, not so that our spouse will love us more, but because there are better things out there for us if we will engage in those. And so we've said it pretty much every week. Our struggle's been a difficult one at times. We're almost 22 years into marriage now, and we wouldn't trade it for a thing. And that's one thing that we want to be really clear on. The reason we fight for marriage so hard is because we really believe it's valuable, and we love being married. We wouldn't trade it. And there was a time where we couldn't have said that. Like Jackie said, we've never talked about divorce, but we were really heading towards being roommates and just figuring out how for me to do my life and her to do hers and just be okay. And we've really come to embrace what it means to become one. And it's a struggle that's at times so difficult and trying, but so valuable and so worth it. We've got these chances. We've been talking about what it looks like and why this is important, and it comes down to these are the stories that we write with our lives, and the stories, the best times in the stories, the most important times in the stories really come from the most difficult times. And then it allows us to lean into the good times and just really enjoy them and not feel like we're waiting for the shoe to drop, we're waiting for the next bad thing to happen, but to trust that even when the next bad thing does happen, we're going to be able to move through it. And because of the times that we had early on, we've hit hard times in our more recent marriage, and we've been able to move through them with relative ease. I mean, I spent an extensive period of time where I was unemployed, and those are terrifying times. We were broke, and we were able to move through those together and didn't have the same challenges that we would have early on. And it wouldn't have happened without the struggles. And so being able to lean into that and just know that our struggles help shape our stories and make us who we are, and they're a valuable piece of it. So if you're in the midst of that, embrace it and learn from it what you can. And if you're not, be excited and don't be waiting for the next bad thing to happen. Enjoy the good times that you're in the midst of.
Every marriage is a story. Your marriage is a story, and it's a beautiful story, and it's filled with all things humanity. It's filled with struggle and selfishness and a sinful nature, and it's filled with beauty and joy and triumph. And every marriage story has beautiful pieces to it, and God wants to continue for us to seek after Him, to seek after what He has for our marriage. and to be focused on how he designed us to be operating within this structure. There's every opportunity in marriage. There's daily opportunity to get past our own selfishness and our own expectations and our own control issues and our own all of that kind of stuff, our own brokenness in those ways. There's every opportunity to allow ourselves to let go of those things and instead focus on what God is doing in our life, in our marriage, and how I, for instance, as Mike's wife, can bolster him. How can I love him better? How can I affirm him? How can I reflect back to him how I see Christ in him and through him? And do I seek the best in him? Do I seek to see the best? Because for sure, without a doubt, we can see the worst in each other so easily. And it's such a snowball effect where you start seeing the worst, and that's kind of all you start to be able to see is the worst. So it's a choice every single day. It's a choice to love well, to see Christ in one another, to be for the marriage, to lean into it, and to stay, to surrender, and to continue to create your story and to allow God to paint within your story as well. And the years go by and your story has more and more chapters to it that are not only a blessing to you, but if you have children, it's going to be a blessing to them and a blessing to all of those around you that you share your marriage story with. And we encourage you, share it, because there is so much in the midst of that has been a blessing to you, but it can also be a blessing to other people. So share your story with others and be vulnerable. Take the chance to share all the parts of it. And it's also really cool to just sit in the midst of the two of us and to share our story kind of with one another and reflect our perspective on it and what we've learned from it and how we've grown. And there's just such an encouragement and a blessing in that in and of itself. So your story is beautiful. And even if you're in a place of incredible hurt and pain and anger and hopelessness, know that there is a way through that. God will see you through that. There is a staying and a surrendering and a grace for yourself and a grace for your spouse that will really carry you and allow your story to be filled with coming through this struggle and having it be a part of your story that is a beautiful part. So take care, everyone. We hope you have a really good week, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.